Our next speaker is Alan Sam. If you heard of his last speech, the world laughs with you. He poked fun at his family's traditions and purported they had a special recipe involving something of the feline persuasion. Now, he's going to tell a story about his family's relationship with someone from the canine community. Alan's going to get personal and share a story about Toby and the family. Please welcome Alan.
Dogs are dirty. Dogs are vicious. Yes. And dogs have fleas. And is this like
in bugs.
In bugs.
And viruses.
There we go. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. These stereotypes and beliefs are the ones my family have harbored for many generations. Now, to be fair, my parents, they grew up in China back in the 30s and 40s. We came from a village that was very poor, and no one had any pets. So they never really experienced dogs the way Americans would have, like a Benji, or a Lassie, or a Rin Tin Tin. No, they had a lot of these negative stereotypes about dogs. And I never knew how much they didn't like dogs until I was about 12. When my friend's dog had puppies, and I fell in love with one of them, and I took it home, and I hid him in my bedroom, hoping that I could eventually warm my parents up to them. But no. When my parents found out I had a dog, my mom screamed at the top of her lungs, "Get that dog out of here!" And I was just crushed. And so the next day, I had to take the puppy back to my friend. And I thought I could kind of change them. But I guess, what is that saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Or maybe they just never met a dog like Toby. Now let me tell you something about Toby. I got Toby back in 2003, when I finally had a home of my own. And I just fell in love with this brown fur ball with the big brown eyes and a raccoon face. And I have to admit that I wasn't too affectionate with Toby until I had some friends come over, my animal-loving friends, and they would cuddle with Toby, they would play with him, they would talk with him. And the weird thing was, they would always call me the daddy and him the baby. Because I always thought I was the owner and he was the pet. Yeah. But it was kind of cute, and somehow that notion grew on me. And I said, yeah, I guess I am the daddy. And as I started to grow on him and him on me, I would take him to do things that daddies would do. I'd take him to work, or I'd take him camping, or I'd ride with him on my bicycle. I would even make him a part of my house. And as much as Toby was a part of my life, the question is, can he be a part of my family's life? And I was determined to make it so. So one day, when we were at my brother's house, when we were gathering at my brother's house, I put Toby in a kennel. I snuck into my brother's backyard, and I put him there. And then I went to all the little kids, my nephews and nieces, and I said, "Hey, you want to see a doggy?" And they would all come out and they'd play with Toby. But of course, the cat got out of the bag. The older generation found out I had a dog, and they weren't pleased with me. And my mom was angry, and she said, "Why would you get a dog? Throw that dog away." I said, "No, he's mine." She says, "Okay, well don't let him in your house because he's going to make it dirty." I said, "No, he's an indoors dog, and he sleeps on my bed." And so, you may have noticed that stubbornness is a trait that I inherited from my mom. She would not bend, and neither would I. And still determined, I would always take Toby to family gatherings. And I would actually hold Toby in my arms all day long. Or I'd keep him in a little doggy carrier so he wouldn't touch the floor. And then my family kind of felt sorry for me because my arm must have been tired. And so they said, yeah, you can put Toby on the ground. Just keep an eye on him. And so I kind of watched them and I saw how Toby was kind of growing on my family. But my mom still did not like Toby. That changed in 2007 when family circumstances in my life changed, and I had to move back home to my parents. My mom was happy to have me back home, but she was really nervous about Toby. And I told her, I said, don't worry, listen, I'm only going to be here for 1 month until I figure out what I want to do. Well, 1 month turned to 2, which turned to 3, and pretty soon it was an entire year, and I let it slip to another year, and then a 3rd year. And all this time, my parents got to witness Toby playing with me and bonding with me, and they would see how Toby got distraught every time I left to go to work, and how excited he'd be when I come home. And then, when Christmas time came along, I thought, you know what? I took my parents and Toby to PetSmart, and we took a photo together with Santa. And then I made this a Christmas card, which I mailed to all our relatives. And they got such a big kick out of it. And they all said to my mom, they said, wow, Toby's just like your grandson. And I remember one morning, and I was in the bathroom washing up, and I heard my mom, she was speaking in a really high-pitched voice. She was saying, Chuck mew, Chuck mew. And I thought, who's she talking to? And so I looked out the door, and I saw she was petting Toby. And I said, what's a Chuck mew? And she said, oh, a Chuck mew's a beggar. She said, every time you left, he'd always follow me around and beg for food. And so I laughed because I realized that's when Toby grew with my mom. And after that, I could take Toby to all my family gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, Chinese New Year, and of course the younger generation now get to experience dogs. You get to play with them as infants, and you sleep on their bed as well. And of course the older generation warmed up to Toby, as did my dad who walked him every day when I was at work. And now my mom is a Toby fan. And that is how Toby made it into my family.